All right, welcome everybody to the Monday, October 9th meeting of Kubernetes SIG service catalog. I have the agenda up, so I will share my screen with you all. Let's see. All right, Doug, you want to be the moderator today, so knock yourself out.
All right, first up, a review of beta milestones. Paul, you want to take that one? It's yours.
Yeah, all right, so let's see here. So, Vile and I were kind of chatting in the course of talking about some other poll. I think it was maybe last week sometime. And I think as we go through this, we should identify which things ought to be moved out. This is probably a superset of what actually we need to ship an initial beta. And so let's talk about each of these things and see if some of these things ought to be moved. All right, so the first one is service class removed from a broker's catalog are retained in the API server. I'm working on broker relist business logic right now. So technically this one is in progress. I see no reason to move this one out since I'm already working on it. Next one.
For that one, from perspective of do we need it, does anyone think we do need it for the beta?
I think it's part of what we've already discussed for the relisting of broker logic, and they're not going to be removed. They're going to be marked as being removed per our previous consensus.
Yeah, okay. So a different question then. If we add them in a beta 2, is that going to be backward incompatible?
Well, the API surface is already there. So it will be backward compatible, but I'm about 30 minutes away from submitting the pull request after this meeting. So I don't really see a strong need to move it.
Okay, Null, your hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that remove is fine. I mean, like marking the service broker as removed is fine, but the service class, sorry, but if the same name appears again, it can become really tricky. So it can be a completely new thing. It could be the same thing, just restored or something like that. And I think like handling this case will be really, really tricky.
Yeah, I don't see that as being in scope. I think we can handle that in a later release.
Okay, I mean, we just like, if we handle this removal, I guess we need to be clear about like how do we handle if the case when it appears again. Will we remove the old one? Will we skip this new service class or what?
So I think that in the naming scheme that we have, what you would do is you would just update the spec and then update the status to unset the removed status field.
Okay.
Since the name, the Kubernetes name will be the ID in the current single naming scheme that we have.
Null, does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Aaron, you're up.
So I'm not understanding why, if for beta 1, if we just remove it, take it out as a resource, and then for, say, beta 2, we leave it in and we set the field removed from catalog. Not understanding why that will be backward incompatible.
So I did not say that that would be backward incompatible, but we don't want to remove it because if you have existing plans or if you have existing service instances of these things, then you've got like instances that you can't like look and see what they refer to. So this is part of the previous consensus that we have, which is similar to what Cloud Foundry does, where if you relist a broker's catalog and you don't find a service or plan that you have, and there are still instances of it that you keep it and you mark it as having been removed. You can't create new instances of it. And that's what we previously agreed to at the face-to-face in Seattle.
Yeah, I get.
Jogging your memory now?
Doug, can I talk again, or do you want me to?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I remembered the consensus before. I'll just cut to the chase. What I'm trying to say is the beta is, like 2 weeks late or so from when we said we were going to release. So I'm looking to aggressively cut what we can cut. This seems like it's a good candidate for something to cut. So that's it from me.
Okay, well, as I said, I'm about 30 minutes to 1 hour away from submitting a pull request for it. I don't think that's going to appreciably change the time that we can cut a release candidate in. I think we can still cut one tonight. But I'm happy to sit on this if other folks object.
Oops, sorry, I'm going to mute. Any other questions or comments on that? Any objection with letting Paul go in and finish this one up? Okay, there you go, Paul.
All right. So next up, oh, I already had the next one loaded up. So update logs about service class and service plan to include the GUID and external name. I don't think this is one that we need. I know that Scott at Google is already working on it. It's partially done. I think if I remember correctly, it's actually it's kind of mixed in with some formatting changes that we're making to the logs. Scott, I think this is already done, though, for the instance, controller instance.go file has these things disambiguated now, right?
Not service plan yet, but service class.
Okay, so we still need to make another pass to, okay. I think this one can, so my own personal opinion about this is that I think this one can stay in. I think it'll make it much easier to debug things when users are using this. It does not mean that we have to delay cutting a first release candidate. So I'd prefer to keep this one in. Of course, that's just me. Curious to know what other people think.
All right, Aaron, you're up.
Yeah, again, pretty much same thing as last time. It'd be great. I see no reason to require it for beta, so I agree with you, Paul. The only thing that I'd like is just take off the milestone.
Okay. Does anybody object to that? Okay. So, by the way, I think it might actually be good if we talk about what the game plan is here before we keep going. Does anybody mind if we just talk about like what the game plan over the next week or so is vis-a-vis beta release? I think I have another thing on the agenda for this, so maybe we can just swap the order.
I'll do that. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. So I think that we should cut a release candidate tonight. I think that that should happen after the poll that I make is merged. I think we can continue making fixes and polishing things like log messages and obviously fixing bugs. I do not think that what is in master tonight has to be what we ship because we're still going to have some like tweaks and stuff going in. But I think that we should try to cut a release candidate tonight. And I think it would be good to get at least a a few days, preferably, 2 or 3 days for folks to start using it and find some bugs. And then maybe we can cut another release candidate on Wednesday at the normal time that we do the release. And then perhaps next Monday, cut the 0.1.0. And I guess actually before we cut the RC1, we need to have the rename from V1 Alpha 1 to V1 Beta 1 done. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I just want to wait till you're done. So
Yeah, I'm done. EOF for me.
Okay. So while my preferred approach would be to wait to do the first RC until we have all issues closed up behind us and we actually think we're done, I'm okay with fudging it a little and saying there are some known bugs that we want to fix, but I do think that I would prefer, though, if we do not cut the first RC until we have all features and API changes done. And so that all we have left are bugs. And then, Paul, you're up. I'm not Paul, Aaron, sorry.
Oh, should I go now, Doug? Do you want me to wait for Paula?
Well, I guess so, yeah. Paul, did you want to respond or do you want to wait for Aaron?
Go ahead.
Okay, agree with you, Paul. You mentioned something about not necessarily being tip of master. Did you want to cut a release candidate from some other place than master?
I had meant that I don't think we have to have all tiny little things like log changes in to cut a release candidate.
Cool.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Obviously, I'm not viewing the chat, so.
Well, no one else's hand is up. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. So with that in mind, let's go back to this list. Oops.
Oh, wait, Kent's hand is up. Sorry, just went up.
Yeah, just one quick question, and I'm sorry if this has been addressed and if I missed it somehow, but as part of the release process, are we planning to release the Helm chart into a Helm repository somewhere like the Kubernetes charts repository?
Well, Kent, my recommendation to you is to gather up your little horses and hold them, because we've got an issue for that to discuss in this list.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Okay, so this one, using an unsupported field selector should return an error. I think I count this as nice to have. I'd like to keep it in. I don't think it needs to block a release candidate. Anybody disagree? Okay. Another one, make verify should validate that versioned APIs contain JSON tags for fields. Another nice to have, I'm happy to move this one to 0.1.1 right now.
Sure.
Hold on a second, Aaron's hand's up.
I was going to just agree with you, Paul. I think we should move it out.
Okay, let's do this.
Hold on, Paul. Chrismer's.
I'm holding it.
There you go. Chrismer?
Oh, no, yeah, I will say I agree. I'm working on it right now, but I don't know how long it's going to take. So.
Yeah, and that's okay, Chrismar. If you get it done, that's great. We'll ship it. But we're trying to make sure that like the stuff that is kind of icing on the cake, like, is pushed out to another release. So there's kind of I don't think anybody's going to die if this doesn't go into 0.1.0. I would love it if it did, but I also don't want you to feel like you've got to work night and day to get it done. You know what I mean?
Yep, makes sense.
Okay, so I'm going to change the milestone on this one to 0.1.1. So next one, the purge generated make target will now blow away code that is checked in. So The reason for that is that when you have a custom sub-resource that's not a status sub-resource, the way that you add those is you put into the client set directory a file called resource name _ expansion.go. And we have this make target that removes all of the generated code. It's written in such a way that it will just basically blast that entire directory, which now will catch code that isn't generated. I wish there was another place that we could put it. There isn't. So we either need to remove this make target, or we need to have it delete only files and not directories, so it can keep those old files around that are generated. This is another one that I think could go to 0.1.1. Curious to know what people think. EOF for me.
Anybody have any opinion on that? There you go, Aaron.
I'll share mine. That's an agreement.
Okay. Let's assume that no comment means agreement with what Paul's suggesting. Just as Peter. Okay, Paul. No
All right. I'm moving it. Okay. Timeouts to all the tests. Vile, do you want to talk to this one? I forget exactly what level this one is at.
Vile, you on mute?
No, I didn't get the plus hand act, so I was trying to be a good citizen, not a renegade like you. Ouch. So this is basically, there was a chunk of code that was in a deadlock, or basically in a while one loop, and it basically hosts our Jenkins. This was a week ago Monday, while Niall and I were looking at something. And Jenkins happily kept on trying to test it. So I think what we should do is we should have two kinds of timeout. One of them, which is to go ahead and put an upper bound on how long a given PR will lock Jenkins up, for one thing, so that we will actually get some feedback. And the second one is we should also have test timeouts in our tests, so that if some things don't happen in reasonable amount of time, we error those tests out again to go and get more information back to the user. So it's definitely one candidate, because we have the upper bound on how Jenkins works, and it could probably even be 0.1.2 or whatever else. But while I was debugging this, I just wanted to jot it down.
Okay. Any objection to moving out to 1.1? There we go.
Okay. Next one. Plan default or mission controller doesn't correctly select plans. Jay Boyd at Red Hat is working on this one. I think it should stay in.
Okay, Jay's hands up, so go ahead.
Yeah,
Jay.
I was just going to say it's about ready. Paul, the last thing holding me up on this is the unit tests for these field selectors. It's messy, and I don't know that it makes much sense. I can ping you afterwards, but I don't think I agree with doing unit tests on these that we can't test cleanly with a field selector.
Okay, let's talk about it after, Jay.
Yep,
I think this should get fixed before we ship 0.1.0. I don't think it should block release candidate.
Does that mean milestone 0.1.1 or keep it as
No, I want to keep it in 0.1.0. I don't think it should block the release candidate. I do think it should block 0.1.0.
Okay. Any objection to that? Aaron, you're up.
No objection. Sorry, nitpick, Paul or someone. Actually, do you mind if I add a bug label? I don't know if something's changed there.
Knock yourself out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Watch the mail from my invoice. All right. Update.
So now I'm asking a question about whether we need a label for a release candidate.
Like a milestone?
Is that what you're asking now?
something.
You want a milestone?
Yeah, I just wanted to like, how do we know if when we are ready to release candidate? It's just like tonight, no matter what, or
I prefer to wait and see what this list looks like when we're done.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
So I would prefer to wait and see what this list looks like before we make that decision.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. Update Open Service Broker client to 2.13. Michael Kebe has a pull request to Service Broker client to do this, or to update it to serve 2.13. It's a fairly minor transformation required to our code when that's done, but we've both been working on other stuff. I think I could go either way on this one. I wonder what people think.
Any comments? Aaron?
I'm a broken record. I say take it out.
All right, so.
Any objection to moving it? Done.
All right. Okay, add more meaningful examples in Contrib API server. So we have these resources that I think there's a script that uses them to test with kubectl. They do not show all of the API features, and they are a good place to have things that show different API features. This could be an 0.1.1 candidate. This is also a really good starter one if someone wants to make a contribution for the first time. I don't think it should block beta.
Any objection to moving it out? Done.
All right, let's see here. Okay, so this one is not to actually do this. It was to ensure that we had a design that could accommodate it in the future without finding ourselves in the far corner of a very large room with a ton of paint on the floor. I think this can now be closed. My own personal opinion, does anybody have things that they feel like we need to talk through about this? And if so, we can totally talk about it.
So my hand's up. Yeah, I don't think we need to close it. I'd rather just push it out because I do think you might as well have this issue there. For example, to create at least the namespace version of the service broker, right? Because we still need to do that.
Yeah, we can push it to like 0.2.0 or something.
Yeah, that's fine. I just I might as well keep it open because it is.
Oh, that's what I meant. I didn't mean to close it, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah, just move it out so it's not beta anymore. But yeah.
All right.
Any objection? All right, done.
All right, fantastic. So next one is 2 service classes with the same external name should not be allowed. Let's see, this was 10 days ago. I'm trying to remember what the code was at that time. Yeah, I think this is probably still an issue. I think this should stay in for now.
Okay, Vile, you're up.
I thought that your relisting the brokers was going to take care of this. At least when I was kind of blowing through some of the code, I thought that it would see, but maybe it was only looking at the ID, but it seems like, anyways, that might be the
Honestly, it's fairly easy to tack on. It made, like, I could live with tacking it onto my current pull request, and we cut a release candidate tonight anyway. I do think it's important that we cut a release candidate tonight. I'd be happy to do it. Like, honestly, if people want it in before the release candidate, I'll add it and I'll just work late. It's definitely up to the group.
Okay, my hand's up next. So, Paul, what happens right now when this situation happens? Two different brokers try to register the same name. Do we just allow it and give random behavior about which one's picked up, or how does that work?
So right now, I think that you could create them with a different external name, and it would be I don't think that there are any ordering guarantees around the order of lists as they're retrieved from the API server. So I think it would be anybody's guess. It would be non-deterministic which one you actually got resolved to.
Okay. In that case, I prefer to keep this in the beta time frame, whether it's before or after the RC, I don't care, but I definitely think it sounds like something that should be in for beta.
Oh, it's definitely a bug.
Yeah. Okay, Aaron, you're up.
Yeah, so I'll tackle this in order. I don't think it's necessary for the RC for sure. If it's going to be fixed, I also agree with Niall. It should be in a separate PR. Also, Paul, no need to work late. I think also this does not need to be in beta. This is a bug. There is a non-deterministic behavior here. That's what beta is for. It's to fix bugs.
Okay, Vile, you're up.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that we're going to go and do it. Anyways, that's been discussed, meaning I don't mean that we need a huge PR to address everything. It just seemed like we could tackle this in the same PR simply because there's a logical place to check for it. But anyways, what I really think is we should not hold up this release candidate for this bug or the other one, but I do think that it should be, I mean, I don't feel really good about having a beta with known bugs. At least we should then document them. But
Yeah.
RC is, it's you should simply just say, okay, we'll get this in tomorrow, and today we'll cut the RC instead of working late.
Paul, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say I definitely think that we should fix this before 0.1.0. It's fairly easy to do. It's not a lot of extra code. It might. The thing of it is that so only with concern to what PR does it happen in. The pull request that I'm working on. Actually, do people see my terminal screen?
No, just the Firefox or browser.
Okay, so the pull request that I'm working on has gotten larger than I thought it would be. It might be easier to review if we tack that on. In a separate one.
So I think I'm hearing separate PR, not RC needed, a little bit of disagreement for beta, but I think more people are saying do it for beta. Any objection to that? Okay, done.
Okay. All right. Rename cluster level resources to cluster star. Now, Vile has already renamed the resources. There's a question of whether we want to rename the status objects as well. Should we talk about that now?
Hey, which one did you want to talk about now? I'm sorry, I got distracted for a split second there. Go ahead, Aaron.
So my understanding from just looking at this only today is that this is not going to change the user-facing API. So my argument is to not talk about it now and bump it out to 0.1.1.
Okay, Vila, and something else you want to say besides your +1? Okay. So, Paul, can you reiterate what exactly is being pushed out if we do push something out?
The only thing that we're pushing out are renames that do not affect end users.
Okay, so just the status one like you talked about in the bottom of that page there.
Yeah, so it would affect clients of the API, but it won't affect end users.
Okay, just for my own clarification, are clients of the API our end users when we go to beta?
Honestly, I don't know. That is a piece of trivia I have not analyzed for myself yet.
Okay.
I believe that they aren't. I believe that the thing that matters is that old YAMLs still work, because we've used in the nucleus of Kubernetes, we've used things like local object reference with the idea in mind that we would change to an object reference potentially in the future, which would be a similar transformation that didn't affect old clients of the API that were end users, but it would affect people that are using the Golang client in the sense that it would change slightly the API constructions that they had to feed into the client, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Vila, your hands up.
Yeah, so it would be good to go and make sure we have a good understanding what we mean by what do we mean by API changes, because there seems to be this thinking that it's okay as long as the YAML that the customer specifies doesn't change, or JSON or whatever else. But if we do, so I have been thinking sometimes incorrectly maybe that types.go fields are the ones that where we define the API. So if it is just the YAML wire compatible thing, then that's fine. But I'm like, is that known to be the criteria for beta? So if we make changes to it, is that going to get us in trouble?
Yeah, I think that I will take an action item here, and I think this should be very easy to clarify. I will ask one of the owners of Kubernetes what the decision plane is. If it is that you can't do something like extract a type and inline it into an existing object, like if that's not allowed, then I think that we should put Vilay's stuff into place before we ship 0.1.0.
Okay, yeah, my hand's up basically to ask you, Paul, to take an AI to talk on the SIG architecture call on Thursday. Worst case scenario, you don't get an answer before then, because I can't make that call on Thursday.
Okay, I think I can get an answer 10 minutes after this meeting ends.
Okay, cool. Oh, sorry, Noel, I missed you. Go ahead, Noel.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that looks like in Kubernetes release process, they don't break both user-facing API and client-go API, but we can do differently probably. So they have, like, they cut releases and they don't break the things inside the release branch, I think. At least I haven't seen the case where they break anything.
Aaron, your hand's up.
Let me minus hand this. I'll talk about it another time.
Okay. Any other comments, questions about this? Okay. So it sounds like the decision to potentially move out the changing of the status or other internal ones is on hold until you get that answer, Paul, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can someone write that in the comment here? I can do it. That's cool.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, Paul, next issue. No, we'll get to your question, I think, when we're done with the list.
All right. Allow users to choose service and plan for instances using the Kubernetes names. I don't have a strong pressing need for this before 0.1.0 on my side. I'm curious to know if anybody else does.
Anybody object to pushing this out to 1.1 or 0.1.1? Vile?
I don't have a. I don't. I just want to make sure that we decide what our API is going to look like. So there's the pull 1350 where there's been some more than lively discussion on if there's going to be how the structure is going to look like. So at least I would like us to agree on what that looks like, because that potentially could have not only the types changes, but it also could have changes that are going to affect the end users. So we should at least nail that down and make a decision at some point before beta on what it looks like.
Okay, Paul, your hand's up.
Yeah, I agree with Vile. I think that we should understand that we should have things factored. My own preference, regardless of what we have to do, would be to have things factored so that we can start adding additional fields for these other strategies for saying what a user wants before we go to beta. So for me, I would like, I think it's 1350. I would like that one to be finished before beta. I think it depends on a lot on what the actual rule is around, can we make these transformations that will potentially change the API for users without breaking API compatibility. However, we'll see.
So, Vile, your hands up.
Yeah, so the 1349, which is the previous one, which is the broker status, that one depends a little bit on what the rules are. For the 1350, one of the ways that I think Niall and Doug wanted to have this is that there is a second level YAML field for rather than inlining it. And that's what I mean, is that we just need to decide at the YAML level if you want to introduce the extra level or not. And then that refactoring thing we can push later on, but that if we go all the way to the end of it, I think there's some. It's in the conversation.
Okay, so just a point of order here first. Let's finish out the original issue, and then we can jump to 1350. On the original issue, there was a question about whether people should be able to reference the service class name and the service plan name by something other than the human readable name for beta. Aaron, is your hand to talk about that, or is it up to talk about 1350? Okay, go ahead, Aaron, then.
Yeah, so about 1285, the proposal looks like it's a non-breaking backward compatible addition to the spec. Therefore, I don't see a reason to require it for 0.1.0.
Okay. Is there any objection to pushing it out post-beta? Okay, not hearing any. Paul, you can go ahead and move that one. And then we can talk about 1350.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep going through the list first.
Okay.
So 1288, I think is still open pending the discussion about exactly what level of compatibility we have to do. Users should be able to choose service and plan for instances using external IDs.
So hold on a sec. Aaron, I think you put your hand up, right?
I did. For the previous one, 1288 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to mention is two things. One, Kubernetes has broken Golang API compatibility before in client Go and in API machinery across betas. The other thing is we made the agreement that this is going to be YAML wire protocol level early on, and then quite a few times since then. So I think for us to entertain the idea now, at this late date, for Golang API compatibility, I don't think that's going to work.
So Aaron, is that related to the cluster star prefix thing, or is that a different issue?
That's related to the cluster star status.
Oh, status. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought 1288 was about putting cluster on front of like service broker.
Yeah, so the cluster has been put in front of service broker, service class, service plan, but the status field, the name of the Golang struct for the status field currently is not prefixed with cluster.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so as far as the resolution of this, then, do we think 1288 is actually closed?
It's just those three fields, right? Two of them are done already. Then there's a third one which has a PR open already. So is that correct?
Well, the resources are all renamed. The open pull request is to extract to rename the status types and to extract a type that could be shared for potentially namespace variants of these objects in the future.
Okay, so it sounds like everything's done except for this one outstanding one, but that's almost ancillary. So it sounds like it can be closed unless anybody disagrees. There you go. Close it.
Okay.
Paul, can you do something like hide the window on the right-hand side that shows the people, or something that makes the screen, something is making the screen flash really badly?
Yeah, let me, is that always there?
It wasn't there when the call first started. It just started maybe a couple minutes, like 10 minutes ago or so. I don't know exactly when, but it wasn't always there.
No, it's always there.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, it's been there for a couple weeks now.
Oh, has it? Okay, really, I haven't noticed.
A couple weeks. Okay. Does this help?
No.
All right. I think we are doomed.
Okay, never mind then. Sorry.
Let me try this.
It's like it's trying to show the list of people's screens or something like that. Just flashing it. It's really weird.
All right, now Zoom is doing the thing where I can't share the only window that I want to share. Truly charming, classic Zoom.
Okay, while you fight Zoom, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I was going to offer to share just so we can keep moving. And Paul, you can just direct me, where to go.
Sure.
All righty.
Okay.
Paul, just a quick time check. We have 13 minutes left.
Yep.
Okay.
So next one is users should be able to choose service and plan using external IDs. I think this is the same situation. Let's move to 0.1.1.
Any disagreement? Done.
All right. We should consider publishing a single image with API server and controller manager. Matthew Stabler has something in progress for this. Honestly, Matthew, I have not had a chance to review your pull request yet. What's your gut? Is it close to done?
As far as I'm concerned, it's done. I'm just waiting on some reviews for it.
Okay. I think this should stay in.
Okay, Aaron.
Sorry, I can't access chat very easily.
Okay.
I think at the least this should be bumped out. Even I know it's going to be done soon, but bump it out. If it's in, we can release it in beta. I don't see a functional reason and a feature-based reason we need this in for beta.
That's fine with me.
Any objection to pushing it out even if it makes it? All right, relabel.
Okay. RBAC resources and Helm chart will need to be updated for Kubernetes 1.8. Scott, you got a pull for this. Is it ready to review?
I think I have a string greedy matching problem where it finds v1 in v1 beta 1, so the order needs to get tweaked. But yeah.
Okay. All right. So do you have bandwidth to do that tweak in the next few days or so?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Aaron, your hands up.
Yeah. Again, another nitpick. We've guaranteed support for 1.7 as well. Well, haven't guaranteed. We've talked about it a lot. So in addition to taking it out and renaming all the RBAC resources to having version v1, we should also have a v1 beta 1. So
the issue is not written up correctly, Aaron. That's what we're trying to do. So no objection. We should still support a cluster where you don't have v1 and you do have v1 beta 1. I totally agree. Okay, so I think we're done on this one. I can go change the write-up of it.
Should I leave it in 0.1.0?
Yeah. Next one, create v1 beta 1 after beta API is finalized. Well, I'm pretty sure we need this one.
Any objection?
I'm curious to know if anybody is interested in doing this. Probably going to be a ton of fun. I'm personally happy to do it. I hear that Vile really enjoys renaming things, but he's done a lot of renaming. I'm not sure what kind of rename stamina he's got left.
He looks really excited, so we can assign it later. We got 9 minutes.
All right. API server crashes when installed on Minikube. Is this still an issue?
I opened it, so I'll answer. We made 2 changes to Minikube, and if you use the latest or previous release, it doesn't happen anymore. So it's fixed on Minikube. There's also an issue referring to ACS, Azure. We fixed that in ACS as well. I think we can close.
Okay. All right. You gonna close it then?
Anyone disagree? Should I just do it?
Yeah, any objection? Go for it.
Broker update semantics is the one I'm working on.
Leave it as is.
Yep. and publish Helm charts to a Helm repo. I think Vic Iglesias is looking at this one, right, Ville?
So is this required for beta? Or is it just nice to have? Aaron?
I believe it's required for beta.
Any objection to keeping it? Done.
All right. Well, we got 7 minutes left. What do you guys want to fight about next?
So what's the final list? What's the total? I see 8 open issues. I guess the question is, do we cut an RC tonight, or do we wait until some other milestone? Aaron?
Looks like if we cut one tonight, when none of these are fixed, if none of these are fixed, if we cut it tonight, we'll have bugs, and we will have still V1 Alpha 1 API resources. So I believe if we do have V1 Beta 1 resources and we cut an RC1 tonight, I think that's good. We should do that.
Okay. Nal, you're up.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we need to cut the branch for the release so that we can separate any merges to master which can potentially break the API from any bug fixes for the release.
Okay. My hand's up. I was actually going to answer that one. I prefer not to, just because I think it's an extra overhead maintenance. I would prefer to make sure that nothing goes into master that we don't want to go into the final beta. Therefore, we don't have to do a dual merge or cherry pick or anything like that. Just my personal preference. Ville, you're up.
Sorry. Yeah, I think that all sounds good. The only thing I do want to talk about is 1350 because that might change the API.
So, Ville, you said you want to talk about 1350. Do you mean on this call or just before we go to RC?
Before we go to RC.
Let's talk about it now. No time like the present, in my opinion.
Paul, you had your hand up first. Is there something else you want to talk about, or is that it?
I'm good.
Okay. Go ahead, Ville, then. Let's talk about 1350.
Right. So basically, the idea is that today there is 2 ways to specify the plan. There is one way to specify the plan. You specify the external service class name and the external service plan name. In the future, there's going to be multiple ways. There's a couple of links. I think 822 or I don't forget 1081. And they talk about things like label selectors. They talk about all kinds of various ways of doing that. So my worry is that we will end up with the service instance spec that has order of 10 fields. And it's going to be confusing the user, and it's going to be confusing for us as the coders to keep track of a set of fields that are basically a union or a struct that basically says, here's things that you can specify. I think coding that is going to be trickier if they are just random fields instead of a struct. So I was hoping to go ahead and get this in now. And while in the current incarnation, it has no API changes because it is inlined. So it's very easy for us internally to go ahead and work with this code. In the conversation, if you scroll down, a few issues came up, which is, hey, should we not inline it, but should we make it into a first class citizen, like a, I think it's all the way in the bottom. There. Yeah, like there. So instead of, external service class name and external service plan name are going in the desired plan. So we can easily do that by the types field. Don't define it based on, but call it desired plan. And I actually had that like that at one point, but I was told that we don't want to. That apparently people don't like to have these extra levels. But this is really what I'm going to decide at some point before RC1 is if we are going to add this extra level, then let's do it now. Done.
Okay, so my hand's up. First of all, I apologize, Vili. I think I had misinterpreted your original proposal when you introduced the desired plan. For some reason, I forgot or I didn't notice that it was inlined. I thought you were from the get-go proposing a YAML wrapper. I didn't realize that it was actually just an internal structure kind of thing. Actually, Aaron, can you scroll back down to the bottom? Those two examples. Yeah. So between those two, I agree with you that when we get to the point where you actually do support other selection type of criteria, there's going to be a lot of choices there. I do agree that that can be kind of confusing, but at the same time, the user is only going to specify one set at a time. So it's not like there's going to have, it's not like there's going to be, this way plus another way plus something else after that people can get confused about from the end user perspective. From the end user perspective, it's always just a single one being there. So I think the first example there where it says our current example is perfectly sufficient. I don't think we need an extra wrapper like desired plan shows in the second one. I think it just adds an extra layer of complexity for the end user for no real value whatsoever, because the entire purpose of the service instance is to select the service class and plan. So why bother having an extra layer just for fun, basically? I think, Paul, your hand was next, and then Aaron, I had you after Paul.
Yeah, so I think what's in Vilay's PR is a positive change that's going to help us make these things more understandable to programmers, and that is to extract a type and inline it. I personally like that, and I think it'll probably be a beneficial change. That's my feeling.
Okay, just make sure you get it ready. Okay, Aaron, you're up.
Yeah. So from an API perspective, from a YAML API perspective, I'd +1 with you, Doug. I'd also like to see us kind of drive the other coordinate systems by use case after we release something. And from what I saw in the PR, I think I only looked at maybe half of it. What I saw so far, +1, what you said too, Paul, it's useful. But if we don't go with the nesting, which I believe we should not, I think that this whole PR should be put into 0.1.1.
Okay. Anybody have any other comments, questions? Paul, you're first.
I think that we should merge it. I don't see a reason to make Vilay rebase this thing if everybody thinks it's good. We don't have to block a release candidate on it, but I think it would be good to have in 0.1.0.
Okay, Vilay.
Work's already done.
Sorry, go ahead, Vilay.
Yeah, I was going to say basically I just wanted to resolve that issue of getting wrappers, because currently the PR does not have the extra wrapper. So we are good with that. I'm fine with holding off on submitting this. Thank you, Paul, for trying to save me work. But I don't feel super strongly about it.
Okay, so Vilay, just a clarification question. Is this PR simply about that refactoring into the desired state struct? There's no other changes? It's all sort of covers.
There is the only other changes in our tests. When you are constructing the actual types, you have to, if you are constructing them using the Go bracket structure, you have to say desired plan : and then this one. As you can see the tests where I have to modify them, but that is only when you're working with the raw types.
Right. Okay, so from an external user point of view, in particular YAML, there's no impact on them, correct?
None whatsoever.
Okay. Okay, so technically we're over time. On this one, I think what I'm hearing is, while I may not be 100% unanimous, I think I'm hearing most people say they're okay with not putting a wrapper there. So the only question might be whether it goes in for beta or not. Is that true? Okay. Is there any objection to marking it as 0.1.1, but if it happens to go in before beta, people could live with that? Okay, Aaron's okay with it. Anybody else have any objection to that?
I think what we got to keep in mind is the work's already done, as far as I know. the rebase on this one is going to be tough if my mental model of Git is accurate, because the file locations are going to change.
Okay, well, I think all I need is 2 LGTMs, so they can go in basically in a minute. Aaron, your hand's up?
I'm going to mark this as O.1.1, and VLay, when it's rebase, just ping me, I'll review it, and we can merge it.
Yeah. Sounds like you might get some LGTMs quickly. And with that, I think we're out of time, other than once that PR goes in, is there any objection to creating a release candidate?
So honestly, I don't think we have to move to V1 Beta 1 before the first release candidate. I think so what we could do today is we could, we have two choices. We can wait a little longer and somebody can rename V1 Alpha 1 to V1 Beta 1, which would be fine with me. And by wait a little longer, I mean someone can go do that like right now and get it in today. Or we can just cut the first RC and say this is going to be the last release with the V1 Alpha 1 API. The next RC will have V1 Beta 1 API. Depends on what people want to do.
Any objection? Or Aaron, go ahead. Well, actually, I have my hands up. Yeah, I'll defer my hand to yours. Go ahead.
No objection. Take my hand down.
Okay. So any objection to Paul suggesting? Okay. My hand is up only because, Paul, I assume you probably are volunteering to create the release tonight. If not, I can do it. But
I can do it.
Okay. If you do it, can I ask that you follow the slightly new process, which will make sure that we pick up the right YAML files for the charts, or have the right version number in there, as opposed to updating the files after we create the release. That's the only change to the process. So just check the wiki for the bottom section. You'll see it.
I don't know if that's going to work, because the Jenkins installs the charts using does Jenkins uses Canary. All right, yeah, I'll give it a shot, Doug. I'll give it a shot.
I mean, yeah, if it doesn't work, we can always undo it. So it's no great harm.
All right.
Okay.
So do we have anybody that's interested in doing the V1 Alpha 1, V1 Beta 1 rename? I can do that one too. I'm happy to do it.
There were some comments in the chat. Let's see. Gavin and, I apologize, Min, were both possibly volunteering for it. So maybe you guys could.
It's not new guy friendly.
Okay. Never mind that.
Not. I tell you what, I think I'll put my hand up for it. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
And with that, I think we're out of time.
All righty. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later on.
Bye, guys.
Bye.